So, Charlie Kirk. So I just want to say we now live in a society where we have mandatory mourning of like far right, shock jock, go to college, say a bunch of fascist stuff, see who you can piss off, people, and like that if you don't publicly mourn this, that you are like it's like yeah. I don't know. I mean, so I went to my son's elementary school on Monday and the flag is at half mast for Charlie Kirk. I live in a very liberal, like, you know, suburb where is never voted Republican, right? And, you know, but also on the flip side, they don't want trouble. They don't want, the school district doesn't want to go against what the federal government has said, and so in many ways, to me, that is emblematic of the state of a lot of things, of liberalism and its relationship to the Trump government, to the far right, and um, so yeah, I don't know if other people have stuff they want to say about this. I also recognize it's difficult for people to talk about like people are getting attacked and losing jobs for like not being, not mourning Charlie Kirk. And, you know, Jimmy Kimmel's getting fired for not mourning Charlie Kirk. I mean, this is the state of affairs. So, yeah, and that's my first grievance is just the mandatory mourning of Charlie Kirk that we are under from the Trump regime. I don't know if anyone wants to add on to that or throw another grievance in there.
I'll go just because I want to zoom out a little bit because this is a moment to recognize the let's say grammar of or like syntax. I don't know what metaphor to use. Grammar is probably better of American media life. That the strange and this is I think this is pretty unique to the US. This is like up there with school shooters and like alien sightings, that there are like these unique phenomena that exist only in the US, serial killers. And it makes you sort of think like, what is it about this country that where this stuff happens? And so what's unique, I think, here, or at least the story here, is another iteration of this spectacle, the way that American media apparatus can manufacture spectacle all at once and with the fire of a thousand suns. And you see it deployed. It's a tool that's deployed, you know, relatively not so often, but when you see it deployed, it's like impressive in its scale. Because remember, like this is not a state, this is not a country that has like a state media apparatus, right? It's all privatized. I mean, whatever, they have like some things, but it's all privatized. And so to manage that kind of, let's say, like narrative control, like curation almost, requires like a deep infrastructure, a kind of editorial infrastructure. Now, of course, like 4 or 5 companies own like what 90% of the stuff. So how hard could it be to like connect all these parts together into a machine? But this is for me and I think part of like this sort of whoever is designing these ops, like whatever they are, um that the exhaustion of the populace is part of it too, is that you go from one panic after the next, and those panics become like structuring of like the general political mood. And we saw this whole stuff erupt, and obviously one goal is to sort of help distract from the intensifying genocide in Gaza. Not that the mainstream media is covering it anyways and like needs an excuse, but when you notice these things pop off, these uniquely American things, spectacles, you also see how American media in like infosphere is so narcissistic, how it's the only thing happening on the planet, the thing happening in the US. So it's an interesting I think we have a lot to learn from these moments, but yeah, it is a dangerous, rage-filled moment. And yeah, no, this is a strange, what a way to watch this empire go, and this like strange mass mourning, curated mass mourning.
Can you guys send help? Because I'm like in the epicenter of it. So SO hashtag SOS Arizona, because this upcoming weekend at the nearest NFL stadium, there's going to be a massive vigil for Kirk, and it's going to include the current president and the current vice president. So it's a massive stadium. So this whole week here in Arizona has been really weird, especially on campus. And I've had students come up to my office and kind of like whispering, "Hey, can we talk about this? Because I feel like if I say anything wrong, I'm going to be in trouble or I'm going to get expelled or whatever." So it's a really weird moment. I don't. This feels even weirder than right after September 11th. Um, it feels even much more intense in terms of like the repercussions of just. I mean, for a variety of reasons, right? Because of who this guy was, like his relative unimportance that correlates to someone like Jimmy Kimmel losing losing their work, their job. Um, it's really strange. It's very strange. Hypocrisy doesn't exist anymore. Contradiction doesn't exist anymore. They're just the right, the fascistic revanchist right is on the march, and they're using this particular incident to pummel the rest of us. It's been really interesting too to see online like other countries go along with it, and like following, like, if there is such a thing, like Latin America Twitter, and like the right in Latin America trying to use this guy as a symbol, and then people respond like by just posting videos of the hateful things that he would say and be like, wait, you guys are gonna do a rally for this type of hateful individual. So it's really weird like how he's become a symbol for the right. Like I think, infamously, there was a Kyle Rittenhouse Cultural Center in Argentina, and might still be there. Like I wonder if we're gonna start to see like Kirk cultural spaces or political spaces in Latin America, as because it's become, or it's being redeployed and recontextualized by a revanchist right in the region to kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's a really strange moment. It's a really, really strange moment. It's a really strange moment to be in the classroom with students are really tiptoeing around the issue. It's a really strange moment to be, talking about this with colleagues. And it's yeah, I just watching it. It's really bizarre. I don't know how to describe it. It's extremely bizarre, and it's just constant whiplash. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, uh, Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote an op-ed, I think it was published today or yesterday, in which he said, like, one of the things that he was noticing that I hadn't noticed, and I think a lot of people hadn't, is that in these like weird, uh, saccharine, um, memorials to Charlie Kirk, all these like essays and whatever and op-eds in major newspapers and um these like very obligatory condolence, memorials. No one actually quoted anything from Charlie Kirk. Like that's what's missing in all of these, because he didn't say anything that wasn't absolutely horrific and racist and transphobic and sexist and misogynist and just everything. And I was like, oh, that's another element to this like bizarre, yeah, weird, like constructed, instructed, mandated um mourning period that we're seeing. And then, like when people do just offer some of his, quotes that he has said, like a reporter with the Washington Post did, where she literally just took a verbatim quote from Charlie Kirk and put it on her Twitter feed. She was fired. Um, So what does this say? I don't know. I'm like, I, I, I don't know. It's just, this is like the continuation of like the end of all literacy in this country. And this just like strange performance now that everybody feels like they have to do. I don't know. I agree, Alex. It's super bizarre. It's super bizarre to watch it.
But nothing can jump into action like this if the infrastructure didn't already exist to do that. And I think this is part of like what we're seeing is American jingoism at its height, because there's an invitation, an identificatory invitation here. You're aligning with Americanness. Jay and I have talked about this before in terms of the election, is that even folks of color and marginalized people are invited into those positions in reference point to white supremacy. But the second that Americanness is sort of brought onto the table, they're asked to give those things up to cohere to being American. And I think part of, Alex was saying about fascism and is sort of this like fascistic spectacle, which we can expect. They're going to mobilize and take advantage of any of this to push through more spectacle. Taking over DC is not enough. Taking over other places is not enough. Let's sort of mobilize this. But we're also seeing the weight of liberal rot caving in on itself, because they've backed themselves into a fucking corner when they talk in vacuous ways about gun control and all this sort of thing, but don't actually address any structural issues that might cause this, let alone the originary sin that like continues to feed white supremacy and toxicity and settler colonial logics. They're not going to say any of that. So Jay, when you see that flag on half-mast, I really don't think it's just because they don't want to get in trouble. I think it's because they actually believe this shit and have these, puerile discussions about violence. And the dissociation of like, all of a sudden we're in this semantics game about violence. And this is one of my grievances about distractions, about sitting there and having an argument about what constitutes violence, what doesn't, and always displacing it somewhere else. Or like this becomes an example of violence when we've been subjected to the worst type of violence that is unimaginable, unmetabolizable, that, like we're saying, it feels like nobody can stop. And here it becomes localized in this one heinous person. And that somehow is supposed to draw us in to talk about violence in a very particular way. But I think this is the place, just like Palestine is sort of the door where liberals and fascists are very quick bedfellows. They have no contradictions. Like, there's no more contradictions here. We're falling in on another place of that, and there's a long history of what creates that grammar, as Sina was saying. So I really just don't want to give them an out about like, oh, they're just scared of this, administration. It's like, no, you fuckers believe this.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think like the this is today we announced that we will commission a statue of Charlie Kirk to honor his legacy and incredible work after his tragic assassination last week. The statue, privately funded by community leaders, will stand on campus as a commitment by New College to defend and fight for free speech and civil discourse in American life. The location for the statue will be announced in the coming months. There's a lot of interesting things about that. I mean, like, one is this thing about civil discourse, right? Which is like, this has been a big project of the right for a long time on college campuses as this Trojan horse to get fascist viewpoints into like, liberal universities, right? And it's, they've been doing it, right? And then every time people get protested, they railed against Antifa, right? Like, Nora, you're in the Bay, like the Berkeley is like ground zero for this shit, and like, but like, it's really interesting too, because I remember when we did a live stream a while back on this thing that Renee Johnston actually sent me from Saturdays with Renee, which was like this I can't remember the name of the group, but they're a group that provides board training for colleges, right? And they're like super Zionists when you like dig into them, right? And they're also the people who rolled out all of the time, manner, and place rules, like all of this stuff that they've used to crush protests and like dissent and to kind of attack the ability of students to organize and talk about Palestine and talk about genocide, right? And so it's like it's such a it really does expose exactly what they mean by free speech, right? Which is free speech is really for fascists. Like it's really just about them. And it's to the level where right now, like they're trying to do the most cancel culture-ish things imaginable to liberals and people on the left if they even make a joke. I mean, you know, like I'm like, if Henry Kissinger died again now, would we be able to have fun on Twitter? Like, like it's like, I just
That was a really fun night.
it was a great night. It was great, and when the Queen died, like everybody had a great time, you know. Uh, so anyway,
But can I
I don't know
say,
if it.
Jake,
Yeah,
can I
yeah, go
jump
ahead.
in? The example that you just like, the death of hypocrisy, New College of Florida was essentially the victim of a hostile takeover by like the revanchist right-wing forces by like Christopher Rufo and his ilk. Like they completely destroyed and undermined and radically transformed what that university used to be in Florida and what that university was known for as a very liberal, accepting space in the Deep South for people who didn't quite fit in or were ostracized or were attacked for who they were. They would go to this small liberal arts college that was then selected by the right in Florida, which is a particular odious form, and then helped by people like Rufo, and it's been completely transformed. It's not what it used to be. They fired people, they expelled students, they brought in new students. They're trying to get the students that they want to go to the university by offering like athletic scholarships. So for them to then like do this whole thing about a statue and talk about free speech and civility discourse, it's just complete bullshit, right? Like but they know what it does, right? Like they know what they're doing. They enjoy this. I think they get a lot out of this, right? And just another grievance that I'll throw into this is today I watched a speech of JD Vance, like making fun of the Venezuelan people on fishermen who are being bombed and executed in extrajudicial fashion by the U.S. government. And he's making fun of it at a rally, right? Oh, if I were Venezuelan, I wouldn't go, fishing anytime soon. Which is just repeating an earlier comment that I think Trump made yesterday, after posting about a third boat that was droned or attacked, blown out of the water by the Americans. It's like there is like this. They are watching this and they're getting a lot of enjoyment out of this, out of what we are witnessing, what we are horrified by.
They totally get off on their sadism and their impunity and their ability to do whatever they want. I mean, I find it also symbolic, whatever you want to say, that it's the return of the statues. When like several years ago, we were having statues being ripped down and people sort of mobilizing around this thing. And that is part of the affective pull of fascists, is to like write everything. And I use that purposefully, is to rewrite everything, right? And this statues, I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of this. They're sort of been tracking any sort of movement that has been made and are going to roll it back. Trump one was entirely that. Even our sort of disdain for Obama front and center, that was his primary thing to everything he ever did to sort of recalibrate that. And I think we're seeing a version of that, but also a sort of pompous way, because that's what fascists do, is to also brag about it and to make sure that every single one of us sees and feels and believes that we are at their mercy and that they can do anything they fucking want. They can kill people whenever they want. They can joke about it. They can make all this sort of thing. They can take over cities. They can kidnap people. it's about coming to live inside, and of course us starting to self-police as a result of that.
And there's always the through line to Palestine. I mean, last week it was revealed that these super white nationalist Christian biker gang members, a lot of whom were, proud of their army service in the massacres and occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan, are now doing security for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And on their Facebook pages, they do the thing where, they're like celebrating when the motorcycle club held a pig roast in order to like offend Muslims. It was during Ramadan or something, because these like whack jobs believe that like pigs are, kryptonite to Muslims. It's so disgusting. And they're the ones, like in positions of power inside the Gaza Strip, inside these concentration camps, as this mass genocide, this slaughter continues. And so that like revanchist, fascist cabal is also concentrated in these, whatever few dozen security officials at these killing fields in Gaza. And again, they're proud of it. They're like, posting all these selfies, just as the Israelis post all these selfies when they gun down children and obliterate hospitals and drop all these towers. I don't know. That's my grievance. The last night, and I texted all you guys this in our group chat, but like, I thought I was like actually gonna lose my mind because of this video that I'm sure many people have seen by now. A doctor at a hospital in central Gaza just posted this video. I think it was like during a live Instagram feed that he was doing. And he posted this video of himself basically like witnessing the last breaths of this 2-year-old child, this girl who came in with her face just blackened, burnt, and then her torso ripped in half and all of her guts spilling out of her body. And, standing there, not able to do anything but be a witness to her last gasp. And the hospital staff are doing what they've done probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times already, which is, wrapping up the body of a small child. And to think that's happening, it's continuing to happen. It's been happening for 2 years. And what are we like? There's no fucking half-mast flags, for that girl. There's no attention. There's nothing but like condemnations and statements. And, again, the Israeli army is allowed to do whatever the hell it wants. I don't know. That's my grievance is everything. I'm just grieving everything.
Yeah. I did watch that video after you sent it over, Nora, and it was just totally devastating. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that is one of the things that has made the sort of mandatory mourning of Charlie Kirk like so obscene to me, right? Is just like, like how many assassinations has the United States provided the bombs for over the last 2 years, right? Like we couldn't count the number, right? And even if we were to take some limited view and say like, oh well, assassination requires like somebody who's a political figure or a journalist or something like that, right? Like the numbers still, it's hundreds, right?
Yeah.
At the most generous sort of thing, right? And none of that was even worth acknowledgement by, the US government, right? And and that doesn't even get to what you're really talking about, which is the tens of thousands of children, right, that have been slaughtered throughout this, um and yeah, I mean that is part of what, you know I think turns the Charlie Kirk thing into more of like a Joker moment for me, of just like now you want to force us into these public displays of mourning. Like we've been mourning for 2 years, right? And had to deal with so many people who like didn't, either actively like made excuses or whatever for like why this was happening, or just
Or
ignored it.
mock their deaths
Yeah.
publicly, like Charlie Kirk did. Like
Yeah.
I just, yeah, and it's so revolting to me. Like I've just been kind of walking around with just like a stomach ache. It's all just like so bottomlessly grotesque.
I refuse to believe that it's real. Like I don't think things like this in the US can ever be real. Like it's not, or organic, or whatever metaphor you want to use. Like this is some kind of intense psyop. And whoever is curating it, if, or maybe curating is the wrong word, initiate, maybe it's like a Big Bang kind of situation. In this case it's literal Big Bang, I guess, in a sense, because whoever, like, assassinations don't happen without external parties. Sorry guys, like no single person, it's like the odds that a single actor is taking a rifle and assassinating high profile, or in the case of like the Las Vegas shooter, like large numbers of like regular ordinary people or whatever, like these are not real, like these are not organic. This is not something that happens in other countries. It's like, so again, like we're at this point where the American ruling class or actors inside of it, or whoever, maybe we call it the deep state or something, or all of the above, that this escalation against people, particularly those who are like critical of imperialism, critical of like this good genocide, that this escalation, that this marks a moment where, for them at least, that they can use this, ginned up grieving of this figure, this internet figure, and then the culture around that grieving and that whatever spectacle helps their own base, right? And so it's like these things kind of like mutate unto themselves, and they snowball into like larger actions. And of course now what clearly they're doing is using this up as an opportunity to do the thing which is they always wanted to do, which is like clean up schools, universities. And obviously they used the student intifada as one excuse to do this as a pretext, and now they're going to use this, and it's going to be, and based on the sort of how libs have been reacting as a class, at least their media representatives, not everyone, because some professors, and they're going after them. So it feels like almost like a trap to set for people to sort of just, to have some kind of more spectacle out of this, to like do the cancel culture and also the rage culture, and to kind of like, in the minds of the chuds, do what libs do to them, right, in the culture war. And so this wider culture war of the US, sort of like of whatever, like I don't know how to even call it, because the US is like bigger than the US, like the US stuff spreads. Now, mind you, like I saw a video from Korea, like mourning him, like a freaking Korean Muharram procession for this guy, like ridiculous. Like, does that take much to organize and create? No. I don't think that takes much. I think there's a lot of dark money. I think guys like Shapiro and Kirk and all of this, and Fuentes too, all of them, like they all are backed by various actors and like with deep pockets. And it's not, I don't think we should read too much into like this instance itself. I mean, its consequences are going to be long, far reaching, but the actual figure of this guy is like, I don't know, it's not that like this is not, he's not actually all that important, but it's an excuse, a pretext or whatever to do what they wanted to do. So I don't know. I don't. This is a weird because also Trump's regime itself seems to be teetering on something. I mean, for a while, it seems like, I mean, based on like internet rumors, it seems like he's had some kind of stroke, and his health is declining, or his health is declining. Um, so it's, I don't know, maybe, and because he is a figure who unites so many of the different sectors of the right in a way that no Republican could ever do. I don't think no Republican will ever do again also after him. I think he's their greatest accomplishment in terms of a unifying actor. I don't see Republicans themselves. And I think this partially has to do with how cucked they are to Zionism. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't understand the American political system. It doesn't, I don't even know how like the electoral college works at a basic sort of setting of it. It's all like faked.
Neither do we,
It's like,
Lena.
it's like sport. It's like fantasy sports. It's basically the same. Like it's, it's all a bunch of horrible APAC funded losers jockeying for each other. And then the like normie class, they like pretend that like there's some sort of savants trying to read the tea leaves. It's all so offensive. It's all so offensive. But when the US media class pulls on the same rope, that's impressive. Like that's, the results are impressive. And that's why they lowered that flag, dude. Because the media told them to. Like it's I think it's as stupid as that. Like I think that like there is this factor, and also like I guess also in schools too they have that parent factor of like parents who like call in and be like, "Hey, I'm a Trump parent. Like, how come you don't lower the flag? Blah blah blah. I order a Trump. Blah 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 blah." Like they just did that to like anticipating that response, that kind of allergy response or whatever, that kind of insane like social antihistamine that they have. That to like and was just like, okay, whatever. Well, let's just do this. Like we're being instructed to by our CNN, because there was consensus around this. Like there was total consensus. And it was like it was iron. It was iron. So I don't know. We have to dissect this psyop, but I also think we should move on because fuck this.
We can't. I mean, there's consensus and there's way more than that. Because I mean, I read a Substack that talked about this guy being the American Socrates on the one hand, and on the other hand, there's a religious angle, right? Like the number of AI generated videos that I watched online with this guy going up into heaven and hanging out with Jesus. I mean, it's like gringo Christians are like some of the most blasphemous, sacrilegious people. Like they constantly violate their own. I mean, I guess that's like at the core of their project, past and present. But like the AI generated videos of that they were creating for him, or even at actual churches last weekend, doing some like what technically would be considered like blasphemy and sacrilege, but doesn't matter, right? Because there's something else that's going on here. So it is. I think you're right, Tina, in the sense of the how quickly the consensus formed. I think that's what gives me the whiplash, and then it's gone on to like a whole new level. That's the part that I think we're like seeking shelter to a certain extent, right? Like we're trying to like protect ourselves from that.
But part of what you're saying, Alex, is like really important. This is ethno-nationalism and the white supremacy that's like being slow dripped. And that is part of it, right? Is that's part of the sadism, is that you will have to see all of this. You will have to be subjected to it. But at the heart of this is white supremacy and ethno-nationalism. And it's very Fanonian to me about putting people in their place, right? About like which goes back to what Nora's saying about like there is no grieving for Palestinians because that's the social order, the white supremacist social order of the world. And this sort of show of this is a reminder to everybody about what that social order looks like. If they're bringing a new world into being, don't get it wrong that it's going to be this revolutionary world that you all are sort of in the streets fighting for. That's the psyop, Sina, I think, right? It's sort of like, don't think that everything you all have been fighting for will come into being. This is the order that we will reproduce, and this is what it's going to look like. And at the head of it is going to be this, I mean, what a fucking choosing the most mediocre, mousy looking white supremacist to be the one to do that. But that is so representative of white supremacy as well. And that is what people identify with. You're not going to have this sort of like, you know, buff, fit looking dude. You're going to have everyday white dude that everyone can sort of identify with, that represents your everyday person, that also, by the way, Biden joined in on when he talks about Joe Lunchbox. It's the same specter that shows up over and over and over again. But I think the sort of drip feed to all of us about, and the mainstreaming of it, which is why I think other governments are also joining. It's not by chance that in the UK you have these fascist marches, in India and all these places. They've been building these networks for a long time. And then this moment comes, just like we seize moments for revolutionary fights, white supremacists do as well. And I think it constantly like ups the ante about what is acceptable, what is fascistically acceptable in our everyday. And I think that's part of the regularization, rehabilitation of all of this.